Hi y'all, it's Andrea over at Sewspire.com, and today we are here to revisit my ultimate grocery bag tote. I will link to that original tutorial down in the notes for you. What I would like to do today is show you how to craft a smaller version of that bag, which would be totally practical for quick trips to the grocery store. I think these make wonderful Christmas gifts as well. As I go through each step, I'm going to give you the measurement. However, if you'd like to have that all in one place, I am now creating design boards for each tutorial. And what that is all of the measurements and then very concise written instructions and a little bit of free space for your notes. And I put that all together in a PDF, and you can purchase that for a nominal fee and then download it, save it, print it, and collect those as we go. So it's a nice little way to keep everything all in one spot and organized. So for this, I thought it would be fun to incorporate two prints on the exterior. The base is crafted from a black twill, and the top is a gorgeous home decor fabric here. And so the base being black is very practical because that's the area that is going to be sitting in the grocery cart and likely start to show dirt and a little bit of wear on that. If you do not want to incorporate two prints and you prefer just to work with one panel, you're going to want to cut that 23.5 inches tall by 18 inches wide, and then go ahead and notch out 3-inch corners out of the base of that panel. My bottom accent panel was 9 inches tall, and then that top feather panel was about 15 inches tall. I would give yourself a little bit extra and cut that 15.5 inches by the 18 inches, just in case your seam allowance is slightly off. And so we're going to use the notched corner method for the exterior, and we're going to position those panels right sides facing, and then we want to stitch the sides and across the base, and we're just going to stay out of that notched corner for a moment, and that's going to give the bag its depth. So we will stitch that last. The one thing I do like to do when I'm working with the contrasting panels is align those seams down there, and then the hope is that the side panels line up and look nice and tidy. It doesn't always work out like that, but we can try. And so for this, I'm going to go ahead and use 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. And once you have stitched the sides and the base, then you're going to work within those 3-inch notches and open those up and align that base panel with that side panel. It's up to you if you'd like to fold the seams over or press those open. There's not a lot of bulk there, so you'll probably be okay either way. And then just stitch right across there to give the bag its depth. You're going to repeat that process on the opposite side. So your bag should be approximately 6 inches along that side seam there. And then your exterior should be complete. Go ahead and turn that right side out and poke out those corners. Go ahead and make sure that you captured everything in that seam. If for any reason you missed anything, it's really easy to go back now and fix that. So this gives you an idea of the size of this. So it's much smaller than the Ultimate Tote, but it is a great size, again, for everyday use. So you're going to take that top edge and fold that over about an inch. And you can go ahead and press that and then pin it or clip it in place. And then we're going to go ahead and start working on that interior. So the interior of mine is also crafted from panels that measure 23.5 inches tall by 18 inches wide and have that 3-inch notch out of the bottom left and right hand corners. And then I'm going to take a like size piece of material that is the 23.5 by 18, and I'm going to fold that in half long ways so that the 23 is going across and the 18 becomes the width there. So I just folded that in half and pressed it. And so at this point, your right sides would be facing. This material is very difficult to distinguish which is the right side or not. So I'm just going to stitch all the way down that open edge using a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance to create a tube, which I'm gonna then turn right side out and press. And when you press this tube, what I'd like for you to do is center that seam, if that makes sense to you. It's not really a big deal if you go ahead and press it with the seam at the top, but I like to leave that front edge of this plain there. And so with no seam, so I like to conceal that seam on the interior of this. So I'm just going to give mine a quick press. And that's what that looks like. I pressed the seam so it is centered along the back side there. And then I took each end of that tube and pressed over a little hem, just about 1/2 of an inch. And so I have one of these interior panels all set up, and I want to show that to you so you understand what we're gonna do here. I have those corners notched out at the bottom, and so I'm going to fold that panel in half and mark center, and then stitch down that center to secure that. Then I'm going to align the outer edges here on the side so it creates that little kind of loop there, right? That's great for sorting things. Now, this is just a divider, so it's not going to be attached at the bottom, but we're going to have a little fun here on the sides. And what I want you to do is just stitch in a row of stitching that aligns perfectly with that notch. And so here I have my panel, and those notches are at the base there, and I have pressed a center line in that so that I can see what I'm doing. And I've also pressed a center line in my little divider tube there. And so I'm going to line that tube up with the top of that 3-inch notch, and then I'm going to go ahead and pin that right at center. And you want your seam towards the back there, so it is concealed. So now I have that panel pinned, and I want to bring these edges inward there so they rest nice along that side panel, and they create this little loop here. And I I just have a pin in each side. And so now I'm going to stitch just down the center to secure that. Okay, so once you get your center stitch line in place, then you're going to push all that excess fabric towards the center there. Keep your edges aligned nice and just mark where you're going to stitch to end up right in line with that bottom notch, okay? Because we want to create these little winglets here on this. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch right down where I have those pins on each side. And I will just show you one more time what that looks like on the panel that I already have done. So you got your little dividers there, and then we're going to have these little winglets on the side, and they are positioned right with those corner notches at the base. Okay, so now you're going to position those interior panels right sides facing and just align those little winglets. Let all of the other fabric kind of just fall to the wayside there. And once you get both sides of those winglets aligned, go ahead and stitch those to connect the two little winglets. Okay, and now when you hold that up, your winglets should be connected. And so now I want you to push those out of the way and align your side seams and then your base, and go ahead and stitch down each side and across the base just like we did with the exterior. Just make sure that you have those little winglets pushed inward. You do not want to capture those in your seam allowance. And I'm using that 5/8 of an inch seam allowance for this interior. Once you have your sides and your base attached, it's going to be the same process. You're going to align that base seam with that side seam. I want you to go ahead and tuck that divider out of the way and then stitch right across there just like we did for the exterior. Make sure you're tucking that insert up out of the way. And then you're going to take that top edge and fold it over approximately an inch. And with this being a solid fabric, I don't think that you can see what those panels look like on the inside. So I'm going to turn this around so you can see how that comes together. So on each side, you will have installed this little divider, and then you have these side slips here that are perfect for taller, skinnier things, right? Like think like a box of spaghetti or candy bars. Maybe a skinny drink like a bottled juice or something like that that you want to keep upright, right? Like tube of toothpaste would fit in there. I'm sure we can think of more things. So those will be on the sides there, and then you'll have the two larger dividers, and then you'll have all the interior cargo space there. So I'm just going to flip this back around so that the divider's on the inside, and press over that top edge about an inch, and then I'm going to fit this into the exterior, which we already crafted. And if you want more stability, obviously you can use interfacing of your choice. I do find for these grocery totes, it's nice to keep them light and allow them to fold and not take up a bunch of space, right? Because you need to store them when they're not in use. But if you were going to use it for something else besides a grocery tote, I think it would be nice to add some interfacing to this and give it some body. And so as long as you stuck with the consistent 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, everything should be lining up nice for you. In the event that your seams are not lining up, go back in and increase that seam allowance or decrease that seam allowance so that at least the top edge lines up nice. And so here's what the project looks like. And then for the handles, I thought it might be nice to use the webbing for these. So I cut two 20-inch strips of webbing, and this webbing here is 1 1/4 inches, and I ordered that from Big Duck. I do have an affiliate link for you, which I'll also put down in the notes. And so you can position your straps in on this so that it affords you the drop that you need. I like to carry my grocery bags in hand or in the crook of my elbow there. So for me, coming in about 4.5 inches from each side seam is ideal for me. And I will let you know the approximate handle drop on that so that you can plan accordingly. So that's going to come in at about a 7-inch drop, which is plenty of room for me to put my hand in there and carry a couple of these. And so just go ahead and line up both of those straps on there so that they're nice and even. I like to tuck that webbing in about 1 inch, and then I do add 2 rows of stitching to reinforce that because they're obviously gonna be carrying a heavy load there, and you don't need your handle to give out on you when you have a load of groceries. Make sure you take your time with that. Here's what it looks like. It's super cute. So the next step is just to sew all the way around that perimeter. And here's how that turns out. It's a really awesome size tote. Perfect again for those quick trips to the grocery store. It's just actually is a really pretty bag. I love the height on this. I want to give you the measurements on this. It ends up being approximately 18 inches tall, and then across the base we're coming in at 10.5 inches, and then the depth on that is almost 6 inches. So it is a really fun bag. I think you're going to have a lot of success with this design. And then on the inside, those dividers are set deep down in there, and so that's going to allow you to sort your contents. But because they have that slim profile, you can push them against the wall of the bag if needed. And so that concludes our tutorial today. I'll be looking forward to seeing photos of your everyday shoppers over on the group Facebook page. I'm going to put a link to that down in the notes for you as well. I'm not sure what we're going to work on next Tuesday. I'm going to finalize the December schedule this coming week, and then I will post that on Sewspire.com. I'd like to wish all of you a happy and safe Thanksgiving. I hope you have everything you need to celebrate, and I will see you next Tuesday. As always, please know the creative genius in me will be celebrating the creative genius in you. Have a wonderful holiday, everyone. Thank you for sewing with me.